Close your eyes and imagine. What if the things in life that cause us the greatest pain, the things that bring us grief, are challenges? Challenges designed to help us grow, to ultimately become what we were always meant to be. We feel like we've been buried, but what if, like a seed, we've been planted? And having been planted, we grow to become a mighty tree. Now, open your eyes. Open your eyes to this way of viewing life. Come with me as we explore your true, infinite, eternal nature. This is Grief to Growth, and I am your host, Brian Smith. Hey there, welcome to Grief to Growth. I'm Brian Smith, and whether you're joining us for the first time or you've been walking this road with me for a while, I want to tell you I'm glad you're here. The show exists for the moments when life cracks you open and the questions underneath won't stay quiet. We explore grief, loss, consciousness, and the possibility, backed by more evidence than more people realize, that who we are goes far deeper than this one lifetime, and that love is truly never interrupted. My guest today is Michelle Brock, and Michelle is a past life regression specialist, a psychic medium, and a spiritual life coach. She's based in New York City. She's spent years doing something most of us have never considered, helping people remember who they were before this life and using those memories to finally break free from what's holding them back in this life. She's studied spirituality, shamanism, meditation, divination, astrology, and energy medicine from traditions across the world. And what she's discovered along the way is both surprising and, when you think about it, deeply human. That the experiences we call psychic or spiritual aren't rare or strange, that they're woven into nearly every culture on earth, and they're part of who we are. Michelle is the author of the book, Who Do You Think You Are? An Interactive Journey Through Your Past Lives and Into Your Best Future. And for those of you in the John Edward Evolve Plus community, you already know Michelle. Not probably, you do already know Michelle, because Michelle's there and she's the one that introduced me to that platform. She and I are both creators there. And now, in kind of a full circle moment, she's guided me through my own past life regression, which we'll touch upon in this episode. And that's where this episode gets personal. It's what it was like to close my eyes and be taken somewhere else, to another time and another version of myself. And we're going to explore how those memories, once unlocked, have a way of explaining things in this life that never quite made sense. So if you've ever felt like part of your story is missing, like there's something underneath the grief, the blocks, the inexplicable pull towards certain people or places, this episode's for you. And if you want to continue this episode after or continue the conversation after the episode, head over to grieftogrowth.substack.com. You'll find an article there about today's discussion where you can comment and connect with me and with other listeners. So with that, let's get started and let's welcome Michelle Brock.
Hi.
Hi, Michelle. Welcome to Grief to Growth. It's great to have you here. As I mentioned in the introduction, you introduced me to John Edwards' Evolve Plus community, where we're both creators. For people that don't know, that's a fantastic place to connect with people like Michelle and myself. So I want to thank you publicly for doing that.
No problem. The pleasure is ours. You are a wonderful addition to this amazing community. So, yeah, Evolve Plus is a really unique place on the internet, and I absolutely love being a part of it. So,
Yeah. Well, you've studied all kinds of spiritual practices from all around the world, and you landed on helping people with past life regressions. But how did you get drawn to this in the first place?
yeah, so I got into this work kind of through my own journey. I stumbled across a book called Many Lives, Many Masters, which was written by a wonderful author named Dr. Brian Weiss.
Hmm.
It was at a time in my life that I really felt like I was at a crossroads. Things were not going well, and I was safe and healthy, and I was. It was more of a dark night of the soul kind of a thing.
Hmm.
But that book just really opened up my world. I remember I read it in one sitting. I couldn't put it down. It was the most compelling thing I'd ever even thought of, right? Like the
Hmm.
idea that you can recall past lives. And I ended up going to a workshop that he was giving, and I started to have past life memories. And that experience completely changed the way that I look at everything.
Hmm.
It allowed me to just completely renegotiate who I thought I was and why I'm here, why any of us are here, and what life is all about.
Yeah, yeah. So you said you went to the workshop and you started having past like memories. Were you regressed or did this come spontaneously?
So what he did was these kind of group regressions, a lot of similar to what I do on the Evolve Plus platform when I we go live. They're group meditations, but I started seeing images and feeling things. Some of them
Hmm.
were intensely emotional. And then he actually said, I know that there are hundreds of people here. Many had traveled from far corners of the world to be there in his presence. And he said, I can only choose one volunteer to come up on stage to demonstrate this.
Hmm.
And the second he said that, I knew that it would be me,
Oh
even though
wow.
I was in the back and I was kind of like, ooh, me. And he chose me. And I went up on stage and I had this experience in front of hundreds of people that just completely shattered my entire perception of myself and again, life and purpose and all of that. So, yeah, I felt like I needed to pay that forward
Hmm.
because it was such an instantaneously transformative experience to me. It was very healing. The regression that I did with him is actually something he included in his most recent book, which is called Miracles Happen.
Hmm.
The story is basically about my mother who died in this life in 1977. I was still two,
Hmm.
and I saw her in a past life. I saw, she was my wife, I was the husband, which seems strange, but there it was.
Yeah.
I felt it, I knew it. I could tell how much love was between us. And yeah, once I was able to kind of see that and how I died in that past life, it helped me kind of negotiate a lot of things about how I saw my father grieve in this life after losing my mother. So yeah, it was literally like maybe 15 years of therapy in like 30 minutes. Um,
Yeah.
don't bypass therapy or don't bypass your work with a grief coach to anyone listening out there, but it was just incredibly healing. And there was an instant knowing that we've been together before. She had to leave and couldn't stay with me in this life. We'll be together again.
Hmm.
Um, so it was a very, very, very much a balm for my soul for that loss that had shaped me. It had shaped my entire life up to that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. I'm sure it did. So I know you're a shaman and you're medium, so you're highly intuitive. Did that come about after you had this past life regression, or was that something you had before?
I definitely had a lot of experiences as a child that I didn't understand. And I also didn't have anybody that could explain it to me. I grew up very religious. Past lives were not something that my family believed in.
Hmm.
They actually still don't believe in it, but they say that they understand that I believe in it. Um,
Hmm.
I just a very rigid, system of beliefs that didn't allow for these things. And yeah, I saw people who had passed. I saw my mother after she had passed.
Hmm.
I had conversations with her. I actually had conversations with animals and trees, which is why I was really drawn to the study of shamanic practices, mostly from actually 5 different continents. I've studied like indigenous healing practices. That just felt very natural to me. I was kind of a, granola nature kind of kid.
Hmm.
So a lot of my intuitive stuff just kind of came out of that. It didn't seem like it was anything that hit me over the head. I did bury it though,
Yeah.
as I got older. And
Hmm.
after that regression, it came back, but like with a vengeance. It was
Yeah.
just like opened up. I actually could see people's auras in that audience after the regression.
Oh wow. Okay.
I opened my eyes. I was like, wait a second. Yeah, colors. I could see people's emotions. I actually could see them.
Hmm.
So yeah, after that, it took a lot of seeking out teachers, people that could help me understand those experiences and become grounded in them, and then also use them, the alchemy to use them to help other people. So that was really what my journey of the last 20 years has been
Wow.
after having that original past life memory. Yeah.
So, it's really interesting to me the people who really push so hard against the idea of reincarnation or past lives. In my experience, it's been pretty much Christian fundamentalists,
Mhm.
who have been taught that the Bible says there's no such thing. What's been your experience in terms of people that say, I just don't believe it? Has it been anybody outside of that group?
So I love to remind people that actually past lives were in the Bible
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
until Emperor Constantine took them out, with the Council of Nicaea. And a lot of people are surprised to hear that, which to me makes sense because, Christianity stemmed from Judaism, and you really can't understand mystical Judaism or Kabbalah without understanding reincarnation, past lives.
Hmm.
And actually, there are snippets in the Dead Sea Scrolls and some of those lost books that actually do speak to reincarnation. Um, my family are Mormons.
Ah, okay.
So, right. So reincarnation is, they do talk a lot about like a pre life, they call it the pre existence,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
an afterlife. But that the idea that we reincarnated in a bodily form just wasn't taught. And I don't think anybody thinks that it's evil in that tradition to teach that, but I do sometimes run into people who are kind of Christian fundamentalists that say
Hmm.
that that's an experience of Satan, or hypnosis is an experience that opens you up to evil spirits or Satan. And
Right.
I just think that's kind of crazy because hypnosis and meditation are so intricately entwined. They're almost the same thing.
Hmm.
um, so yeah, I mean, I just, everybody's entitled to their own beliefs and their own opinion, but what I like to invite people to do is to make room for their own direct experience. You can
Hmm.
not believe in reincarnation and do a past life regression with me and then have an experience. And you still might say, I don't know if that was actually my past life, right? Because truth is such a personal concept. What's true for
Hmm.
you might not be true for me. And that newfound beliefs don't have to negate previously held beliefs, right?
Right.
You talk about that on your lives on Evolve Plus a lot, like about how, we don't have to accept all the tenets of a certain institution. And if we reject that, that negates the pieces and the parts that we want to hold because they make sense to us, right?
Yeah.
Or resonate with us. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I encourage people to do your own study, do your own exploration, because that's what I did. And I was told that the Bible teaches or Christianity teaches there's no such thing reincarnation, but like you said, it was mostly edited out of the Bible, but they miss some places. And
Yeah.
there are places in the Bible that do talk about, people coming back. They talk about John the Baptist being Elijah. Jesus talks about, God is the God of the living, not the dead. And so they're always asking, is this person that person? And there's another verse I think is really interesting, is where they asked Jesus, the man that was born blind, they said, was he born blind because of his parents' sin or because of his sin? Which indicates, how could a baby, sin before he was born? So they were saying, was
Right.
this like a karmic thing? And
Hmm.
Jesus did not correct them.
Yeah.
So I think there is, even in our own Bibles, there's that. And I think it's really interesting, as I said, that most of the world accepts this pretty readily. That's kind of what I was getting at. So if
Yeah.
you're rejecting it because someone's told you you should, then understand that, even the early church fathers did believe in past lives. And it's funny, interesting you mentioned Mormonism, because I had never heard about pre-existence until after Shayna passed. And I
Hmm.
was mentioning to my sister-in-law who's Mormon, and she's like, "Oh yeah, we teach that." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know that."
Yeah. Oh, interesting. So your sister-in-law is Mormon, so you know a little bit about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the idea that we were just created as we were born is doesn't really make sense if you actually look at nature and study nature, which I do, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
energy is not created or destroyed, it only changes forms. And,
Mm-hmm.
to me, the idea that we existed before made more sense than if we were just poof created in a moment just for this life. And also, why do babies die and some people live to be 100, right?
Yeah.
If this is just our only, go around, how is that fair, right? I used to think about those things when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And it really wasn't until I understood how reincarnation actually worked that I was able to kind of reconcile a lot of those thoughts that I had, that there's a bigger picture to our existence than just this one lifetime.
Yeah, it does answer a lot of questions, and that's what I try to encourage people to do. Look at it as a theory. See, does it make sense to you? Does it answer some of these questions, like you said?
Mhm.
You know, a child that's stillborn that never even gets to come into the body, or a child that only gets to be, a few minutes or a few months old. That seems so grossly unfair if this is our only incarnation. And if we think about the fact that, we have multiple incarnations, it does make more sense.
Yeah,
And we all have these things that we seem to come in with. And anybody that's had more than one child realizes that that child's not a blank slate. When they come in, they have a personality.
you do, right? Yes. They do. They have they come ready with their quirks and their all their potential, and it's so true. They're complete individuals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said, okay, I want to start doing this. I want to start doing past life regressions, because it really impacted like who you are. And that's the thing, another big question I always say to people is, I always ask, like, so what? So if we have past lives and we can't, people say, I have a past life, but I can't remember it. It doesn't make any difference. Why would I even care?
Yeah.
But what we find with these regressions, it does make a big difference.
Yeah, it does. And once I had that experience with Dr. Weiss, it kind of had a little bit of a weighty feel to it, not in a bad way, but it felt like it came with a responsibility
Hmm.
to share it.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe that was my own, obviously believing in past lives, like I that was meant to happen, and this was a path that I was, meant to take, and something I was meant to teach. I felt really strongly that I needed to help people.
Hmm.
And that was the way that I would do it. In fact, one of my first past life memories, even before the one I did on stage, I remembered being it was like the turn of the century. I knew it was like the early 1900s in Chicago. And there was a building that was on fire, and people were leaping from the fire. It was a terrible, terrible disaster.
Hmm.
I had on like lacy gloves, and like I had like a parasol. And I was
Hmm.
like, "Oh, I need to help these people." But it was like, how? How do I help these people? I'm not capable of helping people in the state I was, right? It was this really interesting message to me that, like, drop the parasol and take off the gloves and go out there and get the hose
Oh,
and try
wow.
to help people, right? Like it was
Yeah.
I was like, I just froze, and I sat there as Michelle in, this century, kind of watching myself going, what, why am I frozen?
Yeah.
What to
Yeah.
do? Go do something, go help people, right? So it's kind of this interesting mix of watching who you are now, watching your past self make the decisions that they made,
Hmm.
knowing that you would make different ones today, right? So
Yeah.
they come with these little messages in, when you do a past life regression, which, because you did one as well.
Yeah.
It's like a little message from your former self to your current self about what you need to do in life, and the path that you need to take. So yeah.
So how many past lives would you say that you've recalled at this point?
Oh gosh. Like I think like 46 or 47, like something like that, which
Wow.
only means that that's how much work I needed to do on myself, right? That's how much I needed to change. Yeah, they tumbled out at the beginning pretty quickly. And I remember when I went back to Dr. Weiss, maybe like 9 months after that initial experience, because I wanted to learn the technique from him. I did a professional training with him and his
Hmm.
wife, Carol, that they were at the time training professionals to do this. And I told him, I was like, yeah, I had like 30 past lives. And he just looked at me like, what? He's like, that's a lot more than most people.
Hmm.
In his diplomatic way, he was like, that's a lot more than most people.
Yeah.
Um, and so now, a lot of times when I have a problem that I'm looking to solve, or a situation that is troubling, I sit on it and meditate on it, and sometimes the past life will come that will give me insight into it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it won't until after I've navigated the situation I'll sit there and go, oh, I know this is like a karmic thing from a past life. I need help. Like, give me the primer, give me the Cliffs Notes. And it doesn't come because I'm meant to work through it on my own. So,
Yeah.
it's not a
Interesting.
fail safe tool for me, but yeah.
Yeah, and well, people say we've had hundreds, maybe thousands of past lives, but most of us, if we do recall, it's a couple, I think. There are people who recall more. I think my Kelvin Chen, I think he said 60 that he's recalled. And it goes back like 6,000 years. But some he has more detail on. Some are just like little snippets.
Yeah.
So it's not like when you have this, like you remember the entire lifetime. Yeah,
It's a little snapshot. It's like a moment in time. And didn't Shirley MacLaine say she remembered 100 of hers or
I
something?
think so. Yeah,
Yeah, which people are like, "Oh, that's crazy." I'm like, "No, she's just been at it for a long time, right?" Like that's not, and she probably has 10 times more lives in human form.
yeah.
They're like little snapshots. It's like a day in the life, right? A
Hmm.
little moment. So,
So one thing I wanted to ask you, because this is the second time I've done a past life regression, and you're an intuitive, so you're like I'm talking to your guides, I'm kind of going into this journey with you. That wasn't my experience before. Is that something that Dr. Weiss teaches, or is that your own kind of spin?
so Dr. Weiss does a really good job of, staying in a particular lane because he is a MD psychiatrist,
Hmm.
Yale educated
Right,
MD psychiatrist. And, he does this professional training to all kinds of people, including clergy, psychiatrists, people that want to
right.
add it to their practice. Um, I actually realized that I could use my intuitive abilities with it as I was guiding people, as I was working with clients over the
Hmm.
years. So, yeah, I would just be like, wait, I'm seeing what they're seeing while they're talking, and I'm trying to be careful not to say, okay, and then we see this, and then what happens, and let
Yeah,
them kind of lead themselves like through it.
right.
Once I realized that I'm actually seeing what they're seeing, but also when with the life coaching part of the session where we sit down and kind of talk about, what they're curious about or what parts of their life they think might be impacted by a past
Hmm.
life, and what we want to ask our guides to help us with. I started realizing that I was getting intuitive hits from people's guides as well, or they're kind of whispering. They're like, ask him about the time
Yeah,
when he was 10.
yeah.
um yeah, that just developed over time as I started to practice this. And I've been doing this for 20 years now. Um, and it's the most exciting, most interesting job on the entire planet. It
Yeah,
really is.
well, the reason I brought that up because not everybody can do what you do because not everybody has that ability. And my experience with you to get into that a little bit was you had, like we had like this life coaching session before, which really kind of set it up, and then we had a little debriefing afterward. So it's more than just like you're just going to have this experience and then it's up to you to just kind of figure it out. You're bringing in guides, you're doing a life coaching thing like what are you looking to get out of this? And then after you do it, what did you get out of this? So going back to my like, so what thing, I might have a past life experience to remember, I was an Indian woman and whatever, and I had this day, and then this is the way I died. But how does it impact me now? What's the message from that? Because my understanding is when you do get a past life, a memory, it should have some application to the life you're living now. It shouldn't just be like just totally random for no reason.
Right, absolutely. I always want it to be a usable tool, a piece of information that's applicable to your life now. And the joke I always make is like, unless you're an archaeologist, who cares, right?
Right.
History is cool, and it'd be like, oh, I was in this time period. Well, what's the takeaway? How do you take that home, right? And there are a ton of books out there about people's past life stories. Like it's like, and then he was a pirate, and he remembered this, and he remembered that. Like I remember feeling curious. I was like, well, how did he take that pirate home?
Right.
And how did he use that in his life today? So that's why it felt really important for me as in my coaching practice to kind of develop that. And when I wrote my book, to really let it be a tool, a guide. Like, how do
Hmm.
you figure out how to navigate this life, the life we're living right now, and the future that we're creating actively with our choices. That's what matters the most to me.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's what I wanted to really to bring out from the experience that I had with you is that I really appreciated that framing and kind of the way the session went, the whole arc of it. And it wasn't just remembering random things, and that was able to help me kind of take these things and plug them into like what are we doing. And we talked about like beforehand, which I think set it up to like these are the types of things that you need, the things that you need, right? That's what we really want to know is what is it that I need to know now to apply to my life today.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. And the answers all lie within, you know? I think that that's what's surprising to most people. They're like, where did I get that from? It was like right under the surface. If you just
Hmm.
relax and know exactly where to focus. And again, it comes from your guides as well. They're facilitating it, but we go ask advice of other people all day when literally the answers lie right within us. We already know we have these tools, and we've been old and wise many times too. I started thinking about that. Like we're thousands of years old and we've had so many different variety of life experiences. Like if we can use that to navigate our lives today and also help contribute to the what's going on collectively in the world
Hmm.
today, which is requiring a lot of us to
Hmm.
grow and change and evolve. So yeah, it was really important to me that it not just be like past life tourism, or you're floating on a cloud and tripping out on what your details were of your
Right.
past life, to actually have it be a usable piece of information for your life today.
And we talked a little bit earlier. You mentioned that hypnosis and meditation are very much alike. So a lot of us, such people like myself who are control freaks, might be like, okay, first of all, I don't know if I could be hypnotized. And secondly, I don't know if I want to be hypnotized because I'm going to be out of control.
Mhm.
So, just to share my experience with the couple of times I've done this, it's not like you're out of control. It's not like you're taken out of your body or anything like that. I found it to be just deeply, deeply relaxing. And it was interesting because I would go into when I went into it. I'm a control freak. I'm a very analytical person, so I'm trying to like, okay, let's not try to overanalyze this. Let's just try to figure if this is right, if this is correct, for the time period or whatever. I was just trying to go with it. But I did find myself like when you said, okay, it's time to come back. I'm like, if you had asked me how long it had been, I had no idea. I didn't know if it was 45 minutes or 2 hours. I totally lost track of time.
Yeah. That's actually one of the ways that I ask people. They're like, how do I know I did it right? Or if I went somewhere, I'm always like, what time do you think it is?
Yeah.
Never right, right? So, and it's interesting that you describe, if you feel like you don't want to lose control. First of all, you're always in control. You never
Hmm.
give up control to another person. These people who demonstrate hypnosis on stage that make people bark like a duck or quack like a dog, they're doing that because those people have volunteered to do
Right.
that.
Right.
You were one of those people in the audience who were like, there is no way I'm going to bark like a dog. You wouldn't, right?
Right.
And
Right.
you're also not the person the hypnotist would choose. That's
Yeah.
part of the talent in that kind of hypnosis, is choosing the person that's like, ooh, I'd like to do it. But also there's a certain kind of like rapport and trust. Like, you're letting yourself open up into your unconscious mind, with a guide, right?
Hmm.
So if there's somebody who like it, for example, like if you're getting like a massage and the massage therapist has like a little bit of like a creepy vibe, you're maybe not able to kind of relax as fully into the massage, right?
Hmm.
So it's about having a trustworthy person, and the way I navigate that is by being trustworthy, right?
Yeah.
That you feel is confident that I've walked this path myself. That's part of why I felt like it was really important for me to do my own past life work and
Yeah.
uncover so many memories of my own past lives. I've walked this trail. I've been there. I know exactly what it's like. So, but yeah, you can't give your control over to anyone else. But if you decide you don't want to do it, then you won't.
Yeah.
It's a lot like guided meditation where it's up to you how deep you want to go into it.
Yeah, and I really like the way that you talked about the different clairs, the different way people feel things because or experience things, I guess I should say. Because when I first heard about this, and I've done some facilitated after death communications and stuff like that, I think the expectation is like it's like you're going to be like there, and it's going to be visible, and you're going to feel the sun on your face and all that kind of stuff. That's not the way that I experienced it. And you also opened me up to saying you might just know something or you might just have a feeling about something. So
Mhm.
to trust that as opposed to it's all going to be visual or it's all going to be auditory.
Yeah, I think that for some reason, as human beings, we think that what we see makes something more real than
Hmm.
what we feel or know or sense or smell, right? Where we have five senses, we have many more. Like like ESP is not extrasensory perception, isn't just one way we perceive. There's many ways we can perceive.
Hmm.
So yeah, a lot of people do kind of just know it. That's called claircognizance, clairsentience. I'm also claircognizant, clairsentient. It can be harder to trust.
Hmm.
Um, and then again, the clairvoyance kind of can come with that. But sometimes people have to take a leap of faith and are like, well, my gut's telling me this is where I am. And you did a really good job of kind of letting it flow and not shutting it down. But it did start from the gut. And then from there, I think that you were able to kind of see and feel other things as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's not like being in a movie or being in a time portal where this you can hear
Yeah.
singing and the sun's on your face, but it's different for everyone.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that's really important because it's setting expectations going in. Because I've done other types of things before, and I'm like, well, I didn't get anything, and other people are like, oh yeah, I saw this or I felt this, and after the years that I've been, doing this work and talking to a lot of people who are mediums, I know mediums experience things differently. So a
Yeah.
lot of us think that mediums, it's like your loved one comes in and sits down in front of them, and they can look at them and describe what they look like, and they hear their voice, and that's not the way mediumship works. It's really learning to trust those more subtle senses. So I think that's why it worked better for me this time maybe than even last time because of the way you set that up for me by saying you don't it doesn't have to be this way, and more trusting what you're feeling.
Yeah. And like again, we have many ways to experience psychic information. And I start using these terms with my clients like clairvoyant, claircognizant, and they're like, well, I'm not a psychic. My response to that is, but you're a human being, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All human beings are intuitive. It's a matter of learning how it works for you. Not all of us are mediums. And, I'm not a medium in the way that, John Edward is a medium. I actually get things from your guides.
Hmm.
It's a matter of just kind of learning how it works for you. And anybody who's interested can develop those skills. And
Hmm.
that's, I think, one of the most powerful side effects of doing a passive regression is you kind of get a guided tour of your unconscious mind and a lot more confidence. Like I am somebody who gets those gut feelings, or sometimes
Hmm.
I'll see things that happen, right? So that's kind of the intuitive development portion of doing a regression. It has a lot of benefits, but that's also an additional one
Yeah,
that you can.
absolutely. And I've done a little bit of mediumship training, nothing formal, but I've taken a couple things from friends that are mediums. I've sat in on a couple things. And for me, I would when I did get hits, and I got a couple that were pretty incredible. I just totally felt like I was making it up.
Yeah.
And I was almost embarrassed to say it because I'm like, okay, I'm just making this up. But then they were like, yeah, that's right. So that helped me a little bit to understand, okay, maybe I should trust this. And
Yeah.
and my experience with you, I had a memory because the first thing I had to do was have a childhood memory. And I was telling you, I don't remember much before about the age of 8. And I went back to like it was 3, which was really kind of surprising to me because I don't remember. I mean, I know those memories are there, but I can't access them. And then I had a couple different lives that I had. One was pretty historically accurate. There were some things about it that were off, but like a couple things that were really, and the other one wasn't so historically accurate.
Mhm.
So it does, and I want to say to people, it doesn't mean that like you're going to get everything right. You're going to say it's June 23rd, 1865 and this is the day that Lincoln was shot or something.
Right, right. It's true. Yeah. I mean, the names and dates and places can sometimes be tricky, but as long as you get enough of the pieces that you feel that you understand that's the time period you're in without worrying about all of the details. And I get people that do kind of overthink this. Like, I think I told you during our session, I had a guy I worked with one time who was like, were cars invented in 1903? Because I just
Yeah,
said that was a car and it's 1903, right? It's kind of like to not worry about all of those kind of details. But I do remember your childhood memory. I think it was when your brother was a baby, but
yeah,
you said I have Buster Brown shoes on, right?
yeah, yeah,
And see those kinds of like details. And you just knew you were three. You didn't have to go and ask somebody if you were three. You just knew, right?
right, right.
Right. There's a knowing and a seeing and a feeling, and it's kind of a combination. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I guess the advice I'm giving to people, if you're thinking about doing this, and you again like someone like me, you really starting to try to learn to trust yourself and don't overthink it, and don't feel like everything has to be right. There have been some people that have gotten really super specific stuff, but I don't think, and you can tell me that's probably not the usual experience where someone's gonna uh, get everything historically accurate.
I do occasionally get people who send me like a newspaper clipping that they believe was their own obituary, or
Yeah.
they'll say a date that lines up with. There was one woman I worked with one time who was describing the working with developing the vaccine. I guess it
Mm-hmm.
was Polk or whatever, but and she said a few things, details that were like, whoa, that was what happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so and she also worked for a pharmaceutical company in this life, which is
Interesting.
interesting.
Yeah.
So there's stuff like that, and as far as clinical evidence, scientific evidence that this person's past life was real, I don't know if we can ever definitively do that, right?
Yeah.
There's empirical evidence, which is I think substantial enough that for me it's kind of like, oh, if you describe this scene and there's a newspaper clipping that describes the car accident that you described, the make, the model of the car, who you were in the car, right? To me, that's and but if there's one or two details wrong, does that negate the whole thing, right? Because we're remembering it, and just like remembering things in this life, sometimes, like in a court proceeding, people will be like, I'm thinking of that scene from My Cousin Vinny where the woman didn't have her glasses on, like
Mm-hmm.
she didn't see the car. That kind of stuff happens because we're humans and we're always operating through our own human filter. So it doesn't negate any kind of truth that you felt you find
Yeah,
either.
and and that's was I think that's important. That's the point that I was making. I guess it's like it's also we were talking earlier. Spirit time is different. If there's an argument whether there's time or not in the spirit world. There's an argument whether time exists here. Some people say time is an illusion, and physicists will tell us that time should run either way. So
Exactly. And I think also too that lifetime that you felt wasn't as historically accurate. Do you remember I asked you when you said the year, I said, would we call that AD or BC?
yeah, yeah,
So maybe that was the detail you got wrong, right? Or
yeah,
it's kind of hard to say, but for me, I'm actually more concerned, and my teacher Brian Weiss will say, because he's an MD psychiatrist, he'll say even if you made it up, it's still true,
yeah, yeah,
right? And for me, it's more about kind of the takeaway, but there's also an emotional kind of quality
yeah.
the past life memories have, that if it were projection or fantasy or something you read out of a novel, I think would be difficult to replicate. And I always point that out to people. I'm like, I don't know if it's real, but you are crying.
Yeah, I have to say because the first memory that I had, which was the one that would be called Turkey in today's time, it was okay, and I felt it and everything. But the second one I had, I actually got really emotional, and I was like, why am I, I really couldn't understand why it was so emotional for me. So that And I could, that's the thing. It's like, it was interesting because the year I got was the year that, something happened historically in the US. And I was a Native American and I actually got the tribe right. I got the state wrong from where they would have been from. But the state they went to, I actually did get right. And again, that's not the really most important thing, but it was it was a sad life. It was like, well, sad, I guess, from a certain perspective, right? So, that one really impacted me a lot. That particular life that I recalled.
Yeah, the grief, the loss,
Yeah,
the the I don't think you felt angry, but there was a certain kind of unfairness about what was going on, and it really was palpable the
yeah,
way that felt emotionally in that
yeah.
experience. Yeah.
So, I want to get to your book because, you've written this book, and I want people to understand, if they don't get a past life regression necessarily, which I do recommend. Tell people about your book.
Yeah, so my book, actually, I have it right here. Um, it is called Who Do You Think You Are? An Interactive Journey Through Your Past Lives and Into Your Best Future. And it is really interactive. I designed the book to be for people who, regardless of if you've had 50 passive regressions or never had one or never even heard of it, that it actually helps kind of open you up to the idea that you can connect with your past lives. It kind of teaches you how, it gives you different ideas and different ways to do that. It has a lot of journaling exercises and
Hmm.
meditations, but it really is a book about identity, which is why I called it Who Do You Think You Are? And
Yeah.
so each of the chapters introduces a certain false identity that we have, that we know are false once we understand that we are not a body, that we're a soul who
Hmm.
incarnates over many, many lifetimes. And so by stripping away each of those kind of like things that we're not, we eventually come to the truth of who we are, which is that we're eternal beings. The idea came to me when I was thinking about a concept called neti neti. It's a Buddhist. Um, it's I am this and I'm not that. And it is a meditation practice where you kind of strip away all of the different things that you cling to that you think are your identity.
Hmm.
So I start with your name and then your looks, your gender, your race, ethnicity. You're not your thoughts. You're not your suffering. You're not anything that you've lost or gained, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, I mean, people say they're really enjoying the book because it kind of becomes a companion to this journey as you want to kind of discover your true identity through your past lives, by way of your past lives, knowing more about yourself. And yeah, that's really what I designed it to be, is to inspire people to want to start this journey and to kind of help everyone understand what our true nature actually is, and that we can actually know that in a very real and practical way. And then once you understand who you truly are, that you're a soul, not a body, that
Hmm.
you can actually see other people that way as well.
Yeah.
I've said this a million times, that I think that if everyone everywhere understood how reincarnation worked and actually what past lives are, we would very, very naturally create a society that featured acceptance, love, true equality, right? Compassion,
Yeah.
empathy. That we there is no other. Anytime we see someone and assign some sort of otherness to them, in a past life they were something totally different, and they're on their journey and you're on yours. So that was, my intention behind that book, was to really kind of teach by showing people, like, see who you were in a past life, and then, you know, see that these identities that you cling to that are keeping us disconnected and keeping
Yeah.
us away from that kind of unity consciousness that we so desperately need to find a way to achieve.
Yeah.
um, Maybe not in this life, maybe in a few more lifetimes we'll eventually get there, but what matters is that we're working towards it.
Yeah, as you were saying, that reminded me. I don't know who it was. There was a philosopher who came up with a thought experiment, and he's like, if you could, when you look at a person, imagine that you could be born in those exact circumstances,
Mhm.
then we would have a whole lot more equality in the world. We'd have a whole different legal system. We'd have a
Yep.
different social safety net because we think of ourselves as who we are in this lifetime or in the circumstances we were born into. And many of us, some of us can, but many of us can't put ourselves into someone else's position. So
Yeah.
therefore, we pass a law that says, well, we don't need universal health care, for example, because I have it. Because we can't imagine being in the circumstances where we don't.
Yeah.
So something like this, where you can experience maybe living in a different culture, maybe being a different gender, maybe being a different class, maybe being a poor person, or being an extremely wealthy person, and realizing that that's not the answer, right? That you might have lived a lifetime and you were really wealthy and you were miserable.
Yep, that's right. It is the idea that like you are another me, right? And I do kind of guide people through that in the book. There's so many different exercises where it's like, okay, uncover a past life memory and then make a slideshow. I mean, I just revealed how old I am slideshow. We used to make those pictures with the slides. You'd go on
Yeah.
vacation and you'd show your friends the slides from your trip. Um, make a slideshow about your that past life and tell people, about it where you were in a different country at a different time period. You had different beliefs, you had different experiences. And then eventually what that leads us to is that these experiences of being human are universal,
Hmm.
regardless of if we're rich, poor, black, white, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, right? And you know, doing this work can kind of strip away those identities that we cling to that do keep us stuck in that ego self where, other people are not us, that tribalism.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything that I didn't get around to ask you that you'd like to talk about?
Not that comes to mind. I mean, I absolutely loved working with you. Because I just loved your approach to it. It was such a practical, down to earth approach as you do everything, but you had such an open mind, and I thought that your regression was like, super beautiful, and I've been meaning to ask you to if you wanted to do it for a while. So I was really excited that you were willing to, and to share about it too.
Yeah, no, it was great. And what I did because of the person that I am, I took the transcript from our session and I put it into AI and I
Mhm.
interacted with it and kind of journaled and then just created this whole thing that kind of and it did a really great job of like it did the historical matches for me. So it was
Yeah.
like this is a match, isn't so much of a match. It came up with the themes, that were there.
How
So
they connected to each other. Yeah.
yeah. So
Absolutely.
I really got, a lot out of it. So I want to thank you for doing that. And I also want to encourage people, if you're thinking about it and you're kind of on the fence and you wonder again, if it's at all scary to you or something, I would say, give it a shot. I've done it a couple times now. Like I said, the experience with you because of your unique set of skills, being a life coach and being an intuitive, I think that just really added a whole lot of value to it.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's great to see you again and have a good afternoon.
Thank you so much.